My dear leaders, listeners, and of course friends, I must direct your attention, perhaps not so gently, to the spectacle unfolding around this saga. The death of Suchir Balaji, the alleged whistleblower whose final days have become a grotesque chess piece in the power games of Elon Musk. Let us be perfectly clear from the outset. It is rather apparent that Suchir's demise was no cloak-and-dagger conspiracy any more than Jeffrey Epstein's oh-so-convenient exit from the stage was. In other words, there is next to zero legitimate evidence of foul play. And yet Musk, the master of melodrama, can't resist waving his rhetorical baton to direct your attention anywhere it might serve his immediate ambition, namely the undermining of OpenAI and the opportunistic gathering of whatever spoils he can lay claim to. The truth, plain as day, is that Suchir's career suicide happened before his unfortunate real one. The poor fellow tried to ring the bells of moral indignation over a data collection scheme that's not so much an exposé as it is an open secret, one that the government has all but rubber-stamped. And so, ironically, there was no sensational revelation to feed the press. Nothing. A stale buffet of bureaucratic paper trails. But Musk, so obviously piqued at having parted ways with OpenAI and so hell-bent on tarnishing it and playing the sympathy magnet, wants to scoop the tragedy and refine it into a weapon of personal advantage. He's become something of a grief grifter, if you'll pardon the phrase, exploiting the hysteria that inevitably swirls whenever a bright young man is found dead, especially one tangentially connected to the hallowed ground of advanced AI. So here he comes, bounding in, tweeting with self-satisfaction about how suspicious it all is, our dear Elon, the would-be cosmic messiah, getting a sweet chance to shift blame onto the anointed villains in his personal narrative. A perfect scenario to overshadow the reality that there's actually nothing especially conspiratorial about Suchir's passing, no more than the official line for Epstein's. But let's step away from the vexing illusions and see Musk's motivations for what they are. He's in a marathon to seize the AI narrative. He parades himself as the champion of transparency, the benevolent caretaker who parted ways with OpenAI out of principle, who valiantly tried to correct their corrupted mission. And yet no one is quite so adept at doubling back on his own stances as Elon Musk. One moment he's the father of open-source everything. The next he pouts that OpenAI is out to overshadow him. And finally, he's building his own rebranded fortress of coded secrets, behind closed doors, replete with hush-hush funding deals no less questionable than the ones he so loudly decries. So, in the ultimate cynic's reading, this entire charade around Suchir Balaji's death is Musk's Trojan horse, an opportunity to rehearse his best faux humanitarian lines while seeding distrust in OpenAI. In this warped retelling, the whistleblower's end is twisted into a narrative that suits the real puppet master. Although zero evidence supports murder or foul play, Musk and his legion of online sycophants can leap onto the stage, brandishing winks and insinuations, fueling the idea that something big was suppressed. This doesn't seem like a suicide, Musk pronounces, even though it probably very much does, just not the fantastic kind that nourishes the Musk brand of drama. Is there any genuine moral concern behind Musk's words? If there were, we'd see him championing an investigation, offering real resources or stepping aside out of respect for the family, rather than plastering his name and half-baked theories across the internet. Instead, we see a man who once proclaimed that free speech is paramount, now using the tragedy to funnel suspicion toward his old collaborators. Even if he doesn't expressly name them as murderers, the unsubtle insinuations linger like a thick, self-serving smokescreen, while the conspiracist corners of the internet do the rest of his dirty work. Meanwhile, Suchir Balaji's mother and close friends, looking for even a fraction of truth or closure, find themselves overshadowed by contrived intrigue. The dead man's name becomes an accessory in the petty squabbles of a plutocrat who can't stand that OpenAI has soared to new heights. There is no fundamental moral outrage at play here, just a relentless push to shape the public narrative in ways that serve Elon Musk's gargantuan ego and empire-building aims. We are left, then, with a story that is neither a gripping detective thriller nor a parable of righteous whistleblowing. No, it's far more mundane and dispiriting. A young man's despair, possibly triggered by a failed attempt to blow open the world's least secret, ends in tragedy. The powers that be, including the ever-grandiose Elon Musk, latch onto it to spin conspiracies or wring out whatever PR advantage they can manage. Meanwhile, the so-called whistleblowing is little more than old hat, a footnote in the unremarkable saga of big tech's sanctioned data grabs. And so, my dear leaders, listeners, and friends, let us call out this charade for what it is, a pathetic leveraging of death to sharpen the knives of corporate rivalry. Musk, in a swirl of moral posturing, is not only trivializing a human tragedy, but also revealing just how shallow his pretensions toward altruism truly are. If we peer beyond the smoke and self-promotion, we see no grand murder plot, no labyrinthine sabotage, no true conspiracy. Only a carnival barker, bellowing with all his might, hoping to harness confusion and sorrow to further his perennial feud and keep himself in the spotlight. In sum, foul play? Likely none at all. But shameless exploitation? Every which way you look. For as usual, Elon Musk can't resist crowning himself as the biggest figure in the narrative. Even when the only real drama is a young man's tragic end and a mother's pleas for answers that won't come from glib tweets or the opportunistic stirring of conspiratorial nonsense. Herein lies the only real truth. Musk has seized upon a sorrowful event as yet another rung in his ladder to dethrone OpenAI and enthrone his own designs, because for him, every tragedy is another PR opportunity waiting to be spun.